Well, it must be 2 p.m. on a Thursday. It is April 16th, 2026. Welcome to Scouching Live. I am the host of the show, Will, of course. Welcome, one and all. We are ready to go. We're live. Welcome to the show. Big week over here at headquarters. We had Liam Ruck and Marcus Ruck on Game Tape with Tony Ferrari. That came out yesterday. If you haven't seen it, put it in your watch later. Do it now or else, and check that out because those two were great. So thank you to both of them and the Tigers and everyone else who was involved. AJ editing it, Tony hosting it, all kinds of stuff. Lots and lots of fun. Excuse me. We also had a scouting report come out over earlier in the week on, as I look now, I already forget who it was, but there are three now available there are three now available for subscribers. We've got one coming tomorrow that's going to be public. We got another one coming Monday, another one Tuesday. We have, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 to record. So we're going to have lots to come out over the next couple of weeks. The Toronto Maple Leafs had their locker cleanout day after their worst season in a decade. Rick Bowness had one of the best media conferences I've seen in a very long time. Go off, King. And the rankings. Oh, right, my rankings came out Monday night. So if you haven't read those, the link is in the description. You can check that out. Our the draft rankings are out. I've gotten lots of lots of feedback from all kinds of people across the spectrum of across the range of opinions, and you know that was fully expected, and that's totally cool. As well, subscribers, I am working on, scouching.ca subscribers, that is. I'm working on the under 18 preview. The rosters haven't dropped yet for most of the teams, but we'll probably make that a weekend project, so, stay tuned for that as well. Oh, yes, and thank you to the chatter. The final Central Scouting rankings came out. If I look a little bit disheveled and sweaty, which I don't think I do, looking at myself in the camera here, but if I do, to you, in your opinion, which is fine, I was on the bike. I was gonna bike, like, first thing in the morning this morning when after I had my coffee and everything and caught up on emails and everything. Not that I get a tremendous amount of emails, but I then saw Central Scouting come out, and the way I've inputted Central Scouting into my ranking tracker to like estimate the value at which these picks are, believe it or not, thank you for the super chat. I set up an audio notification for super chats because I want to be like a real streamer now. But anyway, well, I'll get to this in a second once I finish this thought. Thank you very much, though. I was going to get on the bike, and the way I do Central Scouting rankings is like really weird mathematical stuff based on like because they mix up regions, North America, Europe, yada yada yada. And I still want to try to get a gauge of like roughly where these guys might go in the draft. So it takes a while to like manually do all of that math based on, I guess I could probably automate it by now. That maybe this is kind of exactly what AI was built for. But in any case, we finally got it there. So I was delayed getting on the bike. I didn't do it until like 1 p.m. today, about an hour ago. So I was a little behind the schedule, and I was, that scene in the first episode of Smiling Friends, or the second episode of Smiling Friends, when the shrimp guy and Charlie go to the gym, and in the background there's this guy on the bike who's just going 100 miles an hour. That was me for like 25 straight minutes because I wanted to get my usual workload in. So we went really, really fast. We went really, really hard, and we're here. So I showered, and it was a cold shower. So I tried to cool my body down and whatever. So someone commented my haircut. I didn't get it cut. I actually it's just combed. I'm combing my hair now. I'm trying to look more like a hockey person. You know what I mean? Like the hair is growing out. It's pushed back. I can almost tie it up behind my head, actually. But that's like crossing over into soccer or football. We're not there yet, but one day. And also, it might also be that I have new headphones. One moment. I swear to God, this happened not out of anger, but my old headphones broke. Like they look, these just like snapped. So Had to get new ones, and that happened after I finished with a Fortnite session the other night. I took my headphones off, and just from doing that, snapped in half, and so I had to get a new set. So I splurged, spent an extra $20, got the same set but upgraded. And I will say this. I don't think I'm going to return these because I think they're more structurally secure and sound, which I like, but I don't think they're as good. Sometimes I feel like headphones. And I will get to the super chat. I apologize, but this is how it works with me. This is my mental neurodivergence here speaking. But my headphones, I am of the belief that the more there's like a sweet spot in how much money you spend on headphones, especially like over your ear headphones, where like you don't need to if you spend nothing, you'll get garbage. But if you spend a lot, in my opinion, you get garbage. The worst set of headphones I ever owned was the most expensive set of headphones I ever owned. The best set of headphones I ever owned was those. And those were like $50 or $60 Canadian, which is nothing. That's nothing. I mean, some headphones are like $1,000, right? And those served me well for like 4 or 5 years. And then they snapped in half. So I'll take it. So I spent an extra $20 on these. I don't think the seal is the same on my head. They're not as comfortable, and I'm not even sure they sound as good. So keep that in your heads if you're ever like keeping up with the Joneses with regards to your headphones. I think those were like Anker Q20s that you get on Amazon. And I know maybe that's just me being like a filthy disposable consumerist or whatever, but they served me for a while. They were really, really good, and I recommend them. These, they're fine. They'll do the job probably. I'm not going to return them because I don't not like them that much, but it will take some getting used to. But anyway, super chat. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Been thinking about an NHL comp for Viggo Bjork since Monday's show. Thank you for watching. Watched Viggo a bunch this week, and I came away with a more puck-houndish Danny Briere. Now there is an idea. Honestly, like that never would have crossed my mind. I grew up watching Danny Briere. I'm okay with that. I think that kind of makes some sense. That's commendable. You know, I should be the one donating the $10 back to you for that, because I think that's a good take. I think that's a pretty good take. We all love Danny Briere right around here. We love Danny Briere. But anyway, wow, what an exciting first 6 minutes of the show. Good times. But yeah, so the Central Scouting rankings are updated in the ranking tracker, which if you're using the draft simulator, I believe automatically syncs when you open it. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it automatically syncs. If it doesn't, I'll just do it here. I'll just use my admin powers and force it. Who knows? I might have broken it, but I don't think I did. You know what? I'll give it a test after the show is over and go from there. But it should automatically sync. I also pushed through a new system last night, updating the simulator. I pushed through a new update to what do you call it? Follow the standings a little bit better. I basically rebuilt the draft order from scratch, the draft order engine, because there was like competing systems going on, one for the lottery and one for the rest of the draft, and it made things very confusing, especially in like the later rounds of the draft. So it's been adjusted and fixed, and we're going with it the way it is for now until it breaks, which is entirely possible. But yeah, welcome to the show. This is it's a good time. It's busy season. It's crazy season. I forgot what this was like, honestly. It's a very strange time of year, and I'll get into the questions after this. It's a very strange time of year if you're a draft geek like me, where you've seen all these players so many times over the last year and a half that you're kind of over it, you know? And like Central Scouting put out their final ranking today. I think it's a little premature considering how much things shift after the under 18s, but nonetheless, I'm not judging, you know, it's whatever, it's my opinion. But in my head, I'm thinking like at this point, I'm not learning much watching these guys. I'm just kind of going through the motions. And not much is really changing my mind too significantly. And it's more like now it's like getting the reports done, putting those out, getting them done, and all of that stuff, which is fine. I like that. That's fine and dandy by me. But it's very busy, and it's like but like for a long time, you know, you're not you're just kind of going through the motions in a different way. And now it's like busy, 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 but like you're not learning anything until the end of June. And then the phase of we need to watch all these guys I've never heard of who teams drafted out of the finished under 16 league. They're overagers, re-entry guys. They're 28 years old playing in that league, and they draft, those types of players. Then we look at those after the draft is over. But anyway, it's a weird headspace to be in at this point in the season. I will tell you that. I'll also go over, because we haven't done this in a while, who are the guys that I have looked at recently? My God, I'm out of breath. Let's see. Yesterday, took a look at Alexander Bilecki on the recommendation of a number of people since my ranking came out. Joe Aginla, Alessandro Di Iorio, finished the Ludwig Soderberg dataset, Igor Shilov, Jackson Cover, another game of Elisei Ryabikin, Luke Scherer, Liam Ruck, did another Ruck game, Jordan Duguay. Now that was an interesting pair back-to-back. Adam Anderson, Brooks Rogowski, Wiggo Sorensen, JP Hurlbert, Elton Hermansen, Keaton Verhoff, Adam Gollier. I believe that's where the list ends. And a few of those names, those are the reports coming tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week. So stay tuned for that. They're going to be good. And yeah, I mean, today's the last day of the NHL regular season, and I guess the playoffs start this weekend. So we do have the NHL bracket in front of me here, which we can do, because someone asked the first question, which we'll get to. This? Yes. So, wow, I forgot I had to update my scene transition. I should do, I'll write that down so I don't forget. Scene transition. There we go. It's in the notes. I'm gonna forget. Well, who am I kidding? Yeah, so this is the bracket if the playoffs started today. It'll update again, obviously, tomorrow. And I believe quite a few of them are set in stone, especially in the West, if I'm not mistaken. If I just go to the NHL standings, I think a lot of them are set. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, so the West could still shake out quite differently. The East, okay, the East is pretty much set. Pittsburgh and Philly are going to jostle. Oh no, they're done. The East is set. Oh, the East is done. I'm not reading. So the East is done. So we can definitely go through the East in pretty good detail. Boston or okay. So someone asked about Boston or Buffalo. Sorry, I'm all over the place these days. Shout out BioSteel, by the way. This is their Costco box of BioSteel powder. Pretty good stuff. I'm glad they didn't go out of business. Boston or Buffalo? Honestly, for me, a lot of the Stanley Cup finals or the Stanley Cup playoffs are very dependent on like the grind game and goaltending. And honestly, I think it's going to be pretty competitive. The Bruins are a team that you can just never count out. The Bruins are a team that, yeah, you can just never count out. Sorry, I meant to look up Buffalo. Because I want to see, like... Because Jeremy Swayman, he's been up and down in his career. But you never know. The Sabres in net, I think, are a little more unproven. And this is their first dance in the playoffs in a while. And the Bruins are a team that kind of knows that they've been there before. And I think it's going to be very competitive. And I think I am drinking BioSteel out of a Gatorade bottle. I know. I don't have brand loyalty, man. If nobody's paying me money, I've got no brand loyalty, all right? Does that help? Oh, never mind. I hit the mono button. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know. But for me, I honestly feel like the Bruins might upset the Sabres. And that's all due respect. I will watch every game of that series, or at least as many as I possibly can, because Buffalo playoff hockey, from when I was a kid, is electrifying, and I want to see more of that. But I think that could be a series where the Bruins just, I don't know, push it to 7 and give it a go. The Lightning Montreal series is going to be insane as well. I want to see Montreal do it. I want to see it happen so bad. but man, is it ever hard to beat Vasilevsky. Especially, I mean, if he's on, right? If he's injured and things aren't working right, then so be it. But for Montreal, I just look, I'm biased, right? I'm here in Toronto, but I love watching the Habs so much, and I'm so pro Bell Center, and I'm so pro Montreal like vibe that I want to see it happen. And I know it's a meme now at this point, but I don't know. I have a general distaste for Florida in general. No disrespect to the Lightning and their fans, but I gotta go with Montreal on that one. For Carolina, Ottawa, I get the feeling that's gonna be Carolina, but I think Ottawa is gonna make it tough if they can just get like average level goaltending out of whoever it is that's in net. I feel like they'll get there because that might be the area where Carolina is also a little bit deficient, but the Carolina Hurricanes have been great this year again. They've been to the Final Four a number of times in recent years. I think they're a team that should be able to get themselves through the Senators. I think I think it's going to be a really tight series, and we'll see where it goes, but that's going to be very interesting. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, I get the feeling it's going to be Pittsburgh. I just think that they have still so many of those guys who have been around for so long and won cups, and they're those veteran guys, but they also have this like ragtag group of like, guys that just have shown up and played really, really well. I think they just have a really interesting mix of players that I think could get through a team like Philadelphia. Beyond that, who knows? But I think that's going to be a Pittsburgh series to win. And also, it would be another punch in the gut. It would be another punch in the gut for Leaf fans because Kyle Dubas having success in his first year or second year with the Pittsburgh Penguins and being this unexpectedly successful with the team that he has assembled is also like, if Toronto's the dead horse on the ground, you may as well keep beating it, and Dubas getting through a playoff round quicker than he did with Toronto, it would be awesome. It would be really funny. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. In that sense, then it would be Boston, Montreal, Carolina, Pittsburgh. I think Montreal could go to the conference final, man, and play Carolina. And then I think it might be Carolina. It might be Carolina's year. I look at Carolina this year. We'll see what happens. I think Nick Ehlers is out, but the East is going to be competitive. I think whoever comes out of the East is going to be a really, really, really good team. In the West, things can still shake out, but as they are right now, I think it'll pretty clearly. I really like Colorado over LA. I like Dallas over Minnesota. As much as I've loved watching Quinn Hughes with that team this year, I just don't know. Like, the goaltending has carried Minnesota this year. If it keeps doing so, then so be it. But Dallas is a tough challenge. Vegas, Utah, I think could be really competitive. I've liked how Utah has played this year when I have seen them. I can't say I've seen them a tremendous amount, but I wouldn't count Utah out of that series. And I think that the way that Bill Armstrong has kind of built that team is to think a little bit more about the playoffs in general, and just like that's their game plan is just, they want to be that sort of Vegas-like team in the playoffs. And I don't know if they have quite the star power up front that Vegas has, but I think that's going to be competitive. And if Vegas just doesn't have they've had a bit of a chaotic end of the season, and maybe Utah can sneak through there. And Edmonton, Anaheim, I think that's going to be Edmonton. Anaheim is kind of stumbling their way to the end of the year a little bit here and regressing kind of back to where they maybe should have been, which is kind of how this goes. But Edmonton, I just think that they're like, if Connor McDavid is not on the steamroll of all steamrolls to put the team on his back again and pull them through to another long run in the playoffs, however long it goes, I don't know what else you want out of them. I think that at Anaheim, like, it's going to be that, like, this is their young team, their first year in the playoffs. They are going to be like, this is their welcome to the playoffs moment, and Edmonton's the team that's been there a whole bunch. And can Anaheim pull it off? Can Dostal steal a series against a team like Edmonton, whose goaltending again is a question mark. It's possible, but boy, like Connor McDavid is capable, and Leon Draisaitl as well are capable of doing pretty much anything they want themselves. Like a conference final, I mean, Colorado Dallas in round 2 is like a miserable thought to me. I just don't think that's right. But any of Colorado, Dallas, and Edmonton in a conference final in any combination would make a lot of sense to me. I mean, I really want to see a Colorado Carolina Stanley Cup final, to be honest. I mean, like Montreal in the Stanley Cup final, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it would be awesome to watch. It would just be insane because it was the last time. But a Colorado-Carolina Stanley Cup final would be great. Just for the storyline, Colorado has been so dominant this year. They're such a fast and fun to watch team. Carolina has been so deep in the playoffs so long, and they just can't get to that point. And every year that goes by where they don't make it, it just makes it like it would make it all the better when they finally do get there. And those two teams, I think, would be a great matchup to watch. I am on the Penguins train. I would love to see the Penguins go on a run, man. Like Sid and Malkin and all those guys going on a run. But, you know, seeing Dubas go on a run, putting that team together and how good they've been, like Ben Kindle in the playoffs and doing his thing, like they're an interesting program. They're an interesting team with a good program, and I'd love to see the Penguins go deep. It'd be really great. Thoughts on the U18 rosters, even the early ones? Yeah. Let me go there. Let me go to it. I mean, I'm not gonna show you the data sheet that I'm putting together because it's ugly and broken and still being put together. But the Canadian roster is out. The Swedish roster, the final Swedish roster is out, I believe, already, assuming Viggo Bjork is allowed to go. And Finland's team was dropped, and Norway's team dropped as well. Norway, I don't really have a ton of thoughts about, to be honest. You know, I've liked some of these guys when I've seen them over the years. I mean, obviously, Aram Olsen is the guy that is going to have my attention the most. And he'll probably be very, very heavily relied upon. Their goaltending might also be pretty decent. Felix Timraz Weston was there last year, and he was decent. Freymanis is also pretty decent from what I've seen. They've got a guy named Burke, which is kind of awesome, and Raphael, but I don't know about them being a huge needle mover. Sweden's team or Finland's team is interesting. I like they've got a lot of really interesting players. I mean, Suvanto is going to be there. Piparinen's going to be there. Alla Lowry is going to be there. I feel like Alla Lowry might make some waves with people. The next year guys that I've seen, Roni Kukasjärvi is also an interesting one. The Uronen twins, the Ruck twins of Finland. I'm kidding, but those guys are good. You know, for this tournament, they should be quite good. Ate Vuori is a fun one, a fun addition for them. I really like Iko Laitinen. I think, is that the guy for next year, or am I mixing him up with someone else? Yeah, I am mixing him up with someone else. A different guy on Ilves, not Kukasjärvi. Or is he not there? He might not be there. Yeah, I don't think he's there. That's okay. I forget his name. That means that's how much I like him. I forget his name. Piri Lami as well in net could be a really, really interesting story. I think Piri Lami could be a good guy who could steal a game in this tournament. I've really liked how he's played when I've seen him this year. I mean, Sweden's team is a wagon, in my opinion. I mean, they're Herbie fully loaded, man. Like, you know, I'm not a huge Axel Ellefson guy for the draft, but he should be good at this tournament. Gudmundsson is a good defensive defenseman who should be able to be solid in this tournament as well. Vilgot Ladien is one of my favorite players for next year's draft. Malte Gustafsson should be a huge part of that group. Ola Palme can really skate. Like, a lot of these defensemen are just really good, and they should be fine at this tournament. Up front, like Adam Anderson, that is. I've loved him this year. Nils Bartholdson is a fun player that should do well in this tournament. My boy Wiggo Sorensen is going to be there, which I hope goes really well for him. Adam Nalme is an interesting, skilled player. I don't expect a ton out of him, but Marcus Nordmark, I expect, will be a very, 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 very productive player in this tournament. Bosse Meyer is another one of my favorites for next year. I think he'll be a guy that you know, I could see him being very high on my list next year just because he is one of those just like insanely hardworking, skilled wingers who just goes and goes and, you know, is a letter worthy player. And Ole Carlson is another one for next year that I've liked. Max Isaksson, Alton Hermanson, Alexander Coman, Viggo Bjork, like tons of skill on that team. And I think Sweden is going to have a pretty good looking team. Canada's always tricky at this tournament because they don't get their best of the best because they're still in the playoffs over in Canada. I'm in Canada, here in Canada. I really, really like Brock England for next year. That's a guy that I'm really, really, really impressed with. I think so I think it's Miska Liljeberg is the guy that I'm thinking of. Liljeberg is pretty good. But yeah, I think the Canadian team, though, still could be really, really good. I'm not going to count them out whatsoever. They've got some pretty good goaltending. I've liked Gavin Betts going back to the Holinka tournament. They'll obviously have Mathis Preston on the team, and him and Lawrence and Valentini will be very, very, very interesting to watch because they're going to be, you know, probably among the better guys on the ice when they're playing. And I mean, Valentini will be very intriguing to see because he hasn't had any junior hockey experience this year, really, like at all. I wonder about their defensemen. I don't really know how I feel about that group. Verhoff is going to be, I think, very, very good in that tournament. It'll be very interesting to see him. But like Hicks and Chartrand and Pantelis and who else is there as a defenseman? Like those guys are all, I think, decent-sized question marks. But like JC Lemieux, I think people will see him and get endeared to him. I think he's going to be a very, very impressive sort of bottom six guy for them, and I think people will have a lot of fun watching him. Joseph, I will be very curious to see how he does in this tournament. Dima Zhilkin is another one for next year that I really, really, really like. Shout out to Dima Zhilkin's mom, who has been liking my tweets about him going back to the Holinka. So we go way back, me and the Zhilkin family. It's a lot of fun watching him play, and I'll be really excited to watch that. Beckett Hamilton will be interesting to see there. I really like Jackson Jacobson. Like Canada will have a good team too. Like they'll be competitive, but that Swedish team looks really, really good so far. The US NTDP has some really good players on it. We'll see who they bring, if they bring anybody that isn't part of the NTDP to the tournament. But that, at least offensively, is a team that could compete. But we'll see. I don't think I'd put them on the same level as like a Sweden. They might be like a tough one for Finland to contain, but Finland, I think, has a goaltending advantage there. The rest of them I don't think have been made public. If I'm mistaken, please let me know. But as of right now, that's all I know of that's been made public. Yeah, the final the Central Scouting rankings came out. I did so as I said at the top of the show, I have included those in the tracker that I have here. Where do I go? There it is. Like, I don't know. It's obvious to me now, like, how much they diverge from how I see the game, and that's fine. I'm not gonna cry about it or anything. It's not something I'm not used to. But it is pretty wild. I mean, the midseason list came out, and I did the reaction to it live. I couldn't do that today. I wanted to put it in the database as soon as possible, so... But I haven't really looked in too much detail. Mostly it's just been writing functions and cleaning the data and everything. And I mean, I gotta, like, some of this stuff I don't know. Like, I think this draft class is going to be interesting. I think it opens up real quick and things get very interesting very, very quickly, and I'm open to pretty much anything. And it's very clear to me that there are players that are being overlooked for one reason or another, and those are the guys that you could probably capitalize on, right? Like, it's very much looking now like Mathis Preston will be a second-round pick as of today. Xavier Villeneuve at 18th in North America insinuates like a late first-round pick. Maddox Dagenet at 15 in North America, like that could be a top 25, top 20 pick, and I could see why that would happen, but I wouldn't really do it. But, like, I don't know. I mean... I was going through this and adding a bunch of the guys who were ranked that I don't have in my tracker, and almost to a T, they're all gigantic. And so and I do this every time these drop, where I go and look at the guys that I haven't ever seen or didn't have in the tracker and go look at them. And when it comes to a lot of these guys, like, not a whole lot of them move the needle for me a whole lot, and that's fine. I mean, look, I think we're at the point in the season, like, I've updated my short list for team scouting this year, and with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks, including a second round pick, like a late second round pick, like, I think I kind of know at this point who probably will be there. And the draft simulator really helps with that as well. The draft simulator really, really helps as well. Because then I kind of know generally at least a short list of guys at a given pick that will probably be there. And so it almost like the chips are on the table right now at this point, right? When you have seen enough evidence from people that, like, okay, like, the consensus is starting to build on a lot of this. Let me actually do this. I'm going to go back to my tracker here, and I'm going to do this and filter out, let's say, the bottom 2 or bottom third of guys. Well, let's say 11, because then more guys will be added. Okay. All right, let's do this and then go to this and copy pasta you and put you there and then go here. So, like, this is if you're a subscriber, you get access to this. These are basically, like, this one is just an average, just pure average of top to bottom, but it's sorted by my weight average. So I weigh different rankings based on their general correlation to the way things are looking like they're going to go. And I apologize for the window sizing there. Let's fix that. And yeah, so when I look at this is sort of the weight average is the way it goes. And I mean, this is kind of my vibe on this draft class, where, you kind of have a bit of a group here at the top, from Belchet's Malhotra region up to the top is kind of a group on its own. And then it sort of slowly kind of ekes its way down the list here. And there's a lot of guys here where I go, you know what? Like, if Hurlburt went 12th, I could see why. If he went 30th or 35th, I could see why. Like, it's going to be fun this year. There's a lot of open-ended stuff going on, and there's a lot of guys who I could see going all over the place, and that's just the way she goes. But this year feels, I'd have to do the math on the previous years that I've done, but this year feels particularly open-ended past the top group. I think that there's like a batch at the top and then a very, very, very wide open batch beyond that level here. We'll see what happens, but it's looking very interesting. So, like, Central Scouting, like, I mean, it's not unusual for Central Scouting when you look at it and go, like, where did this come from? What is this all about? Like, it's not like unusual. God. It's not unusual, right? So at the end of the day, yeah, we'll see what happens. Did we get another super chat? It doesn't come through my my chat here. I don't know why. Actually, let me just check. Let me check here. Oh, because I don't want to miss it. Because if for some reason for Streamlabs, I can stream to both Shorts and regular YouTube, but not use the dual stream feature in YouTube. So I now have 2 streams going at once, which is not what I want. Am I blind or did Dax and Rudolph die? I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, I haven't had him high on my list all year. Okay, so we do have 2 chat feeds going, and one of them is not coming into my feed here, so that's kind of silly. Chat broken? No, okay, yeah. So there's 2 chats going on at once here, so I got to catch up on this. Yeah, the playoffs are starting. It is crazy. Yeah, weird. I got a super chat, but I don't see it, so I apologize. At least I heard it come through my headphones, I guess in the Shorts chat, which I'll keep open because it is the one that is not functional, or I can't see it at least. What's your opinion on the idea of Caleb Malhotra being a top 3 or 5 pick? Late season buzz feels like Brady Martin. I mean, yeah, I see it. I wouldn't do it, but it's a center light draft. He's playing on a fantastic team that everybody is watching right now. He's in the limelight, and he's on a very good team with very good line mates, and like he's given every opportunity to dominate the OHL this year. In a year where centers are pretty light, and there's nothing that I think, in my opinion, from an outside perspective, there's nothing in the NHL that gets them going as much as a guy who can plant his feet, stick his bum out, and take a hit and still hang on to the puck and make a play. And Malhotra does do that really, really well. Malhotra does do that really, really well. Is that going to be something that like is a big, huge, meaningful part of his game in the NHL? Sure. But I think he's got a ways to go to line up with a top 5 pick, in my opinion. Okay. So the super chat for some reason got duplicated because that was the same one as earlier. So I don't anyway. So we did cover that. But anyway, I think if Malhotra goes that high, it's an optimistic bet, but I mean, and there's guys that I just like more from what I've seen of them as they are. And again, I have a fundamental belief that it's way too difficult to like easily project CHL guys as the league is right now. I think it is just way too difficult to easily look at guys and go, yes, this is, and after having seen Martin and Dane Noyer, those guys who stayed in the CHL this year after guys that I wasn't huge on last year, like the vibe check is still similar for me. I'm still not feeling it. I still don't see those guys as top 5 picks. And with Malhotra, like it's possible. I think there's stuff in his game that's impressive. But it's just too murky for me. And there's other guys like with the defensemen that are available this year who have shown what they've shown and the situations they're in. There's less uncertainty for me in that world. Thoughts on Joe Iginla, pros and cons? Well, I watched him yesterday and he was not awesome. I mean, look, I think with Iginla, if you're expecting him to be his dad, I think you'll be sorely mistaken. But he is an admirable player to watch. Like Iginla is 100%. Joe Iginla is 100% going to be about his development curve. He is very, very young for this draft class, which is a plus. He works his tail off a lot of the times he's on the ice. He's got some skill. He's, pretty compact, but like gets moving pretty good. He's agile, but he's too small to play the way he plays in the NHL, in my opinion. He gets pushed around a lot, and he just hasn't been super offensively effective on a team that did not make the playoffs in the WHL, and that's been a struggle. Like I have him on my ranking still, and he's fine, and he'll probably get drafted somewhere. But I think he is a project. I think you're betting on his development more than anything. And I don't know, like he might be a late round pick on my book at some point, but we'll see. I feel like, like it depends on your expectation. Like as he is right now, I don't think there's an NHL player there, but based on how he plays, what he brings to the game, how he presents himself as a player, there's upside. It's just going to be a matter of the uncertainty of his projection. Like but I dig him. Alexis Joseph, I don't mind him. I'll be very curious to see how the under 18s go. I'm not on the level of like, oh, he's going to be pushing Lana DuPont or whatever. I think there are players that will push DuPont next year. Maybe Joseph could be one of those, but I don't think right now that's likely. Or not likely, sorry. I don't think it's in my book something that I'd put out there now. But Joseph has an interesting combination of just being like a big skilled center who is decently physical and brings a lot of intriguing sort of potential. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like if an Ethan Belchetz were a center in a way, where there's like skill and a bit of physicality, but you kind of want a little more out of him, and you're wondering where his game's going to go, and you don't really know, but it's not like he's not a good player, and there's all this other stuff going on. So he's a weird one, but I'll be curious to see him at the under 18s. Thoughts on Danhausen? I don't know who that is. Very, very nice, very evil. Is that a movie? Is it a movie? Oh, the wrestler. My God, he's my age. He's 6'7", 300 pounds build. He doesn't look like it. He does not look like it. But he's from Detroit. That's pretty cool. I'm with you on the CHL being watered down and the NCAA being a more premium league. With that in mind, are you higher on defensemen like Polkamp and Castagna, who went close to a point per game in the NCAA? Polkamp, I think, is really good. And Polkamp is a big reason why I have Braden Thompson ranked. Polkamp, when he was a draft eligible, did not produce very much. He was very small, but he had a great shot. He had some offensive tools, and I remember watching him, and there was a time where I had him on my list, and I went, I don't know, and I pulled him off. And I regret that. I still regret that to this day. And if I see guys like that now, I go, you know what? Screw it. Put them on the list, and what's the worst that could happen? They don't work out? Boo-hoo. Wah-wah. But I really like Polkamp. I still am not totally sold on NHL certainty with him. I'd want to see him in the AHL next year, see what he can do, and go from there. But I really like him. Castagna, I think the thing about the NCAA, though, you still have to be really careful about the conference. I don't think, like watching Wittenbach this year and other Ivy League teams here and there, I think that it's like the good programs and the best teams in the NCAA have become truly elite level teams. But like Harvard, Cornell, like I think those teams are losing out on players that otherwise they might have gotten, where like they go to Michigan State or Michigan, or they go to these like premier programs that have a lot more money accessible to pay players and all that stuff. Not that Harvard wouldn't have money, but at those other schools like Penn State, like the focus is the athletics. And at Harvard and Cornell and all this stuff, like they're just not attracting the same level. With Castagna, I think with Castagna, the Ivy League is just really hard to project. It's still, I think the Ivy League is still, not the best sort of source of NHL talent. So it really depends on where you're coming from. But like if you look like a real good player on Denver this year, or Wisconsin even, who I did not expect to be as good as they were or go as deep as they went, then yeah, you know what? I could see good players coming from those programs and everything. So it really depends on where. But I'm a believer in Polkamp, and I'm glad that he's had such a great NCAA run. Castagna, I'm not as sold on at all. I don't think. The type of guy to wear Adidas socks with Nike shoes. I'm actually wearing Puma socks with no shoes. But I wear Hoka Hoka shoes. Look, I know they're expensive, but if you splurge for good shoes and you get good shoes like that, quality of life, shoes, anything that you in life are utilizing often, like your bed or shoes, or in my case, headphones, it is worth finding the right thing and sticking with it and spending whatever it takes to get, like, you buy the cheapest mattress you can find, you might save some money, but your life is going to be miserable. Like, you got to go to Sleep Country Canada and start bouncing around on all the mattresses and seeing which one fits the best for your particular style of sleep. So there's that. There's that, but also the Tim and Eric Purple Mattress video series that they did is still one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life, and maybe you should just buy those forever. But yeah, you definitely want both. You want those types of things being things that are good investments on your end of the equation. Perfect flow or longer limbs. We'll go flow. Flow is better. I like flow. Do you think Matthews is leaving? No. Look, the Leafs are in a miserable spot, right? And I know people are freaking out about what Austin Matthews said this morning, but like, it's a nothing burger. Like, what's he supposed to say? Like, this place is a basket case and it's chaos and I'm cool with that. Like, no, he's gonna say like, he technically like doesn't have a boss, right? Like he's going to be like, I don't know what's going to happen next year. And I don't think Austin Matthews in the prime of his career, really, and age-wise at least, wants to be on a bad team. Like, I don't think that's something he wants. But I don't think the Leafs are like as like they were pathetic and sad this year, but on paper, I don't think they're as bad as the results this year would indicate. I don't think that's the case. They need to change a lot of stuff, but they have pieces that would work, right? And so I think that it's salvageable. But I think what Austin Matthews is basically saying is like just telling it kind of like it is. Like, yeah, like I love wearing the jersey. I'm proud to be a captain. Good. Fair enough. There's nothing in there to me that says I want to get out of here. And he's like, yeah, like, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think we'll see, yeah, like if they bring back Craig Berube, then we'll see, like that might be a really inadvisable call, because it is very obvious that the guys on that team gave up on him and they do not like him. And the reporting that you can see is not positive. That hit piece that dropped the other day did not paint the best picture behind the scenes of what's going on there. So look, if Austin Matthews does leave or they trade him or whatever, it's because this, and I said this when Matthews signed, I've said this every time Matthews has signed a contract in Toronto. Like, Matthews signs shorter term deals because he's putting the pressure on the team to make it work. It's very Connor McDavid-like in a way, where it's like, I'm not gonna extend long term because I know I'm gonna get paid more if I sign a shorter deal, and you're not gonna say no to that. And also it puts pressure on you to put a good team around me. And if the team has turned into a complete basket case nightmare disaster and they stay that way for like multiple years in a row, not saying that's not going to happen, but it's so far has not been very good, right? Then yeah, I could see Austin Matthews being like, when my contract expires, I'm out. And like, you can't trade him, right? If you even think of approaching him to waive his no trade clause anytime soon, you're not going to get anything for him. If you're an NHL team, you're not going to offer anything for Austin Matthews. His shoulder is busted, and yes, he scored goals this year too, but like, you're working with the leverage you have, and you have leverage there. The shoulder is a question, and now he's got a knee that's blown out that has not been tested since he hasn't played. So there's uncertainty there with him. Like, the last thing you want is to get one of the most expensive players in the league and have them be Anze Kopitar for 3 years, and you spend an arm and a leg to go get him. Kopitar's a great player, was a great player, but Austin Matthews, you're expecting a 50-goal scorer. You're expecting like a premier franchise number one center, and if you pay the price that like maybe you could buy low on a guy like him, but I don't think Toronto's going to get it. I don't think Toronto's going to even bother. Why would you? If you think you have the pieces on the ice to make something happen, which I think they kind of do, you kind of have no choice too, right? Then go for it. You kind of go for it, and we'll see what happens. But I don't. If you're basing the question off of what he said today, I don't think there's any indication that he's going anywhere. I think it's a nothing burger, to steal a term, that he is just saying a thing to get the media to end the conference and move on with his life. Because almost like no matter what he says on a day like today, based on the story that hit yesterday, like almost nothing was going to satisfy people, right? Like, what would have satisfied you if you were unsatisfied with that answer, or you think he's going to leave? I guess he could have been like, I bleed blue and white, I'm here through thick and thin, and yada, yada, yada. But that to me is like, well, then is he paying attention to what's going on around him? Like, does he even like, so then why is the team so bad? Like, they'd make fun of him. You'd make fun of him being like, you're so confident for a guy on such a sad hockey team. Blah, 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 blah. Like, no matter what, you can't win, right? You're not going to make everybody happy. It's just It's a miserable situation, but salvageable. You don't have Marcus Ruck ranked or even on your watch list. What's the reasoning for this? Because I just don't think he's like worth drafting. I don't see it with Marcus Ruck. I like Liam, but I don't think I just don't. With Marcus, I look at him and how he's played with when I watch him, and I go, where am I putting him on my list? Who am I putting him ahead of? Like, at what point in the draft am I drafting this player? I don't know. Like, I like Liam I like him, but I don't know. I don't see him as a very projectable NHL level player right now. Maybe I'll eat those words, but I don't know. That's why. That's why. What do you think is the rise of Malhotra, with some people saying he should be taken third overall after McKenna and Stenberg? Because he scores a lot of points on a really good team that is in the backyard of a lot of people who pay attention to hockey, basically the extended Greater Toronto area. Brantford is far from Toronto-ish. You know, it's about a 45-minute drive, an hour drive away, but it's pretty close to Toronto for an OHL team. And so he's in the backyard. He's scoring a lot. The team is awesome. There's a lot of connections between the NHL and the Brantford Bulldogs now. You've got the Hyman family involved. Caleb Malhotra's dad is a coach for a team that may very well have a very good chance at getting him. Like, all the ingredients are there for the storyline to play out, right? Like, Occam's razor applies here, right? If Caleb Malhotra as a player were named Magnus Jonsson and he was playing for Rögle in Sweden, I don't think we'd be talking about him as a top 3 draft pick, right? I don't think so. And if Viggo Bjork were playing for the Brantford Bulldogs, I would be very willing to bet that we'd be looking at him as a top 3 draft pick, right? That's my opinion on it. A realistic ceiling for him, I mean, if he really hits, I could see him being like a solid second-line center, an offensive second-line center who can make plays and make tough plays at that. A bit of a physical edge to him, but like, I wouldn't say it's like a hitty physical edge. It's more of like a pressure-absorbing physical edge. You know, like, I feel like he's a little bit more, he's very similar in a way to Jake O'Brien kind of, but like in a more like boulder on skates type fashion rather than more like pure skill forward type. And yeah, I mean, he's pretty young, so he's got a development curve that's ahead of him. And considering he was in the BCHL last year and was not particularly a premier player at that level, like, he's come a long way in a year for sure. But I also feel like that also feeds into my hypothesis that like a lot of the guys that he plays with really give him a big boost, right? Like, I watched the game 1 of him against North Bay where they won 8-1, which is a whole other discussion. But I didn't think he was particularly great. And watching like Adam Banach run around in that level and just dancing through everybody, and Cooper Dennis dangling everybody, and then Malhotra's there as like the transition driver and sort of a complementary offensive piece. Like, yeah, he'll score, but I think it's not a Malhotra driven offense. It's a Malhotra supported offense. And that's fine. That's fine. But for me, like, he's in my early teens in a relatively center light draft. Like, I could see him as a guy that I'd take in the teens, but like, as of right now, like, it looks like he's going to go after guys like Bjork and after guys like Lawrence. And I just don't buy that personally. And I think there's a lot of confounding variables that open the door to a lot of bias that give you a bit of a misread on the player. I mean, he's a good player. Again, it's the same thing with like a Dane Wyatt last year. I had him like 14. So it's like, instead of thinking he's the 4th best player in the world for his age, I think he's the 14th, which, you know, out of 224 picks is not that much of a difference. And I think a year in retrospect, I don't know if I would have drafted him top 5, with all due respect to him and the Wildcats. Miska Liljeberg. Yeah, okay, that's the Finnish thing. Thoughts on the central scouting behind the scenes video? The Finnish guys compared Smits to Heiskanen. Yeah, so that I wouldn't do that. Look, central scouting is central scouting. We all know, I'm sure many of you have been around long enough to understand how they do things, how they see the game, what they like, and how they talk. And I think those videos are very, at least for me, kind of entertaining. You know, I look, scouting is done in a way that I don't do it, right? It's just not done my way. I've been told that so many times, you know, and that's part of the gig that I have given myself, right? I am self-employed. I am on an island. I have accepted that destiny, and that's fine. And watching those videos, I think, illustrates a lot of the reasons why I vehemently disagree with the way that they and the industry does the job. Like, when those Finnish guys, who are a father and son duo, by the way, the people running the European side are a dad and a son, so there's one interesting little tidbit. But then talking about Albert Smits, there's two of those guys, and they're talking about how good he is. No problem with that at all, But they're talking to a room full of Canadian guys or North American people. And so when they say they think that Smits is one of the best defensemen, they think he's the best. They think he could be the first defenseman off the board, which he's my number one defenseman. Like, when they say that, the reaction from the Canadians were a pushback to go, well, first from Europe. And they go, no, first total. And then they go, whoa. Like, they make it sound like they haven't seen him before, right? Like, that shouldn't be a surprise to me, at least. When you watch like Carson Carrolls and Daxon Rudolph and Chase Reed and all these North American defensemen, and then you go watch an Albert Smits, like, to me, I don't think it's even remotely a discussion that not only is he part of that group, but like right up at the top, right? Like, so who's going to win the discussion? If you're on a team and the situation is you have a bunch of North American scouts and one guy from Finland, who's going to win that discussion, right? Especially in a year with so many Canadian players that people have ranked really, really high. Like, it's just the way it goes in the rooms there. And it's why when I've outlined how I would run a department, like, you have a small group of people who grind video from all over the world all day long. Every day, right? 40, 50 hours a week of video grinding from September through June, right? And you have a global understanding of the marketplace, because I feel like breaking it down into regions, like, you basically completely lose sight of like an equal playing field. You want to champion your guys from your area without having seen a whole bunch of the guys from another area. So those behind the scenes videos are very interesting to me because it illustrates a lot, and the way that they talk, right? Like I think it was the guy running the show, Jim Gregory, I believe his name is. He was talking about Schmitz, and this is like before they made it sound like they'd never seen him. He's like, well, you look at the things that he's done this year and you just kind of have to like that. And I go, well, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? Like, what? Right? Like the Olympics? Because like, if that's the case, like, they obviously didn't air everything that they've said in those meetings and everything, but what I think what they choose to air is also very telling, right? This is how the job is done, and that, like, I don't know. I just go, well, that's how you end up with what they end up with, right? And that's how you end up in the draft with things shaking out the way they shake out. So, it is what it is. I mean, another thing that I found interesting was when Tynan Lawrence popped up as a discussion, and someone said, like, if he has a good under 18, it could throw everything into disarray. And I'm like, well, then, but like, put on your thinking cap a little bit, and like, do it. If you're expecting that, which I think is reasonable to expect, that a guy playing in the NCAA going back to the under 18s is going to play really, really well, like, who plays like that. Like, they were gushing about how hard a worker he was and how much of a dog he was and how good he was at the Holinka tournament. It's like, well, yeah, expect that, right? Like, I personally would see it as like either do your list after that tournament is over, or I don't know. It's almost like they're playing it safe, but opening themselves up to making mistakes. And like, that's the way she goes. But yeah. The player comparisons are always hilarious to me. Like, always. I mean, everybody is always talking about guys as if they're, like Anton Salayev is Victor Hedman, like everybody thinks everybody's going to be a top level elite NHL player. And it's like, if you genuinely think that Albert Smits is Miro Heiskanen, he should be number one on your list. like that's one of the best defensemen in the world. So yeah, no, if that's the case, then you should have him at 1. But I mean, here we are. Who's the fastest player in the draft? I don't know if it would be Mathis Preston. It's really hard to say, honestly. Like Stenberg can get going pretty good. Hermansen can get going pretty good. Novotny. Novotny might be up there. Chase Reed, when he gets really going, might be up there. But Preston can get really moving. He can. It's possible. He just has to want to. Am I blind or did Daxon Rudolph die? He did not. No, look, I don't know how many times I've had to say this about Daxon Rudolph, but like, I look at him and I think like anytime, and I've had this discussion with scouts before, anytime the phrase he has to reprogram how he plays comes up, you lose me. Like you're basically asking for, like, Daxon Rudolph to me is a more extreme version of the issues and strengths that I saw in Sam Dickinson, right? Like Dickinson was slow on his retrievals. He was passive under pressure. He was not moving his feet in the defensive zone. He was not a particularly physical player, but when he got the puck, he basically did whatever he wanted and it was fine and he got away with it, right? But look at Zane Parekh in the NHL now, right? Like it's like the defensemen who play really well with the puck in the offensive zone when it's there, I don't care nearly as much. I care about how they defend. And like, you can watch the report on Rudolph. I think I put more than enough evidence out there on Rudolph where I just go, I'm not interested. Like, if let alone as a top 10 pick, one of the top defensemen off the board. I just really don't think that his game projects, and maybe he is completely reprogrammed over the next few years. Maybe something completely changes and I'm completely wrong and he's Evan Bouchard, right? Maybe. But I don't know. I'm just not, it's just not something that interests me. Like, he's going to be gone before I would take him. And I don't, like, I see a lot, like even a Tommy Blale. I think Tommy Blale's offensive game is significantly more projectable than a Daxon Rudolph's offensive game, personally. I think Rudolph plays a very good offensive game for the WHL. I think he could be a good college defenseman, but I do not see that NHL level defenseman there right now. Right? Like, when I watch him, I see a guy who the Canadian World Junior team will play for 20 minutes a night at the World Juniors, and we'll see exactly the same things that we saw when they played the Czechs this year, when guys like Parekh and Danford and Aitchison were on the ice. We're a fast, hard, forechecking, big physical team, just dominates them on retrievals and dominates them on a forecheck, and then wins a game 6-5, right? Canada tries to outscore their problems because they have all the skill in the world, but you wonder why they lose. You wonder why something, and I just see that in his game. And maybe I'm missing something, but I've watched more Daxon Rudolph than almost anybody else in this draft. I don't know. I just haven't seen it. And again, yeah, go check out the video. There's a lot of stuff in there too. Let's see what's going on in the shorts here. Thoughts on the Red Wings pro scouting? It's been a very mixed bag. I think you could say it's been worse than a mixed bag. Like, they've spent money on free agency on Andrew Kopp and Oli Mata, and they spent a bunch of stuff to go out and get Justin Falk, and they brought in like Ben Sherratt. Like, man, one of the funniest things I've seen this week is Jeff O'Neill. If anyone didn't see it, Jeff O'Neill on Toronto radio, TV show, whatever, Overdrive or whatever it is, saying that the problem in Detroit was the mix of young guys they have. They've done all this work, and it's like he was putting the blame on like Raymond and Sider and Edmondson for not being the right mix. It's like, bro, that's the opposite of the problem. Like, if you ask me, that team, that's the opposite of the problem. They've drafted a lot of the similar type of player as well. These like third line, jack of all trades guys who are physical and mobile and good on both sides of the puck and just fine players, but no real, like, ever since Raymond and Seider, like the game changers they've picked, not a whole lot going on there, you know? So, but I'm not going to point fingers at their amateur scouting. Like, I think it, you know, Red Wings fans do not like it when I point out that that's also a bit of a mixed bag when you look back on it. But the pro scouting, I think, is a huge problem. I also don't recognize your username. Did you email me for your account? You're a YouTube member, so if you haven't, email me, scouching@gmail.com, and I'll set you up with an account if I haven't already. I apologize, but yeah. YouTube memberships and my website don't interact super well. Is Slavkovsky an example of how much the being on the right team matters for a player's development? It is a really good example of that. Like I think Slavkovsky is an excellent example of how good deployment can make a huge difference in a player. Like Slavkovsky plays such a clear role, and it's such an important role on that group that it works. You know what I mean? And he hasn't played the whole year with Suzuki and Caulfield, I believe. I don't think. But he has his job. Oh, you did? Okay, good. Great. Cool. Glad to know. Yeah, he has his, like, that's the thing is like you wonder why players get traded from one team to another and don't do the same things with that team that they did with the previous one, or why players get drafted by a team, go to another team and flourish, right? Because like hockey is not just a sport where just because you're good means you're going to be successful. Hockey is a sport where the team and the unit you're on has to be successful. Like, I watched Mathis Preston this year, and both teams he played on this year were not good fits. Like, Vancouver did not have any offensive weapons. Neither did Spokane for him to play with. And he still found a way to produce a lot. Like, yeah, he didn't have a ton of points, but his whole team scored, like, nothing. Like, I think he had like 4 points on 46% of the goals that his team scored when he was in the lineup, right? Like, there's so much more to the story in this sport than just like, this player is good, therefore good. You know what I mean? A bad scenario, like look at Lafreniere with the Rangers. Obviously, it's easy to make fun of him and call him a bust and blah, 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 blah. But like, I've been saying this for years, but if he went to LA and Byfield went to the Rangers, I feel like those fits would be exponentially better for both players. Do you know what I mean? Like, they just fit so much more with that sort of culture and that, you know, but they almost tried to turn Lafreniere into more of a Byfield-like player, and LA turned Byfield into Trevor Lewis. Like, I don't know. It's really weird, but there's so much more to the story to me. And a lot of it comes down to what type of player are you drafting? What type of player are you acquiring, signing, whatever? What is their job going to be, and what hole are they filling? Are you just getting this guy because he's the guy everybody wants? Are you just getting this guy because he scored a lot of points, right? I think that's where you make a lot of mistakes and you lose a lot of potential success. Like, so many teams that overperform expectations, you just look at the mix, like Washington last year, Pittsburgh this year. You know, Pittsburgh this year obviously has some great players, but like, you don't expect teams like that to make the playoffs, and yet here we are. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Why? Yes, I am indeed watching games, believe it or not. Does this draft feel so wide in terms of ranges for players? It seems like, depending on who you ask. Yeah, it is. I think this draft is like, there's a group at the top, for me at least, like the top 10 or 12 is like right there. And then from like 13 to like 40, I kind of know where I'd put guys, but I don't know. Like, depends on what you like. If you're more pro skill, if you're more pro physical, if you're more pro whatever, I think there are good options all over the place. But I think there are guys that are really skilled and productive that might end up on your third line, Easton Cowan style. There might be big physical guys who also end up on your third line, Maddox Dagenet style. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It depends on what you want. And at the end of the day, it all might come out in the wash and be roughly similar. And there are also lots of guys where it's like I could also see it just not working. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a weird time. It's a weird class, but it's a good one. The Ryan Ufco. I haven't seen Ufco this year, so I can't really give you a breakdown. Have you seen much of Pantelis? Yes, I'm not a huge fan personally. I've watched a bunch of them. Every game I've seen of him, he plays like a million minutes, and I'm not a huge fan. What draft prospect, depending on where they're selected, would have you crashing out? I mean, I always like to think I'm prepared for anything, but I mean, if I'm looking at my list, like, I mean, if I'm expecting something that may potentially happen, I mean, like, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Daxton Rudolph. I have him in the second round, but if he went like 3, I'd go, whoa, boy, you're jumping up and taking on a chance there. I mean, like, at this rate, Xavier Villeneuve may as well be dead to the world at this point. He may as well, like, if I'll crash out if Villeneuve is like past 40 is available. And I honestly, like, it doesn't take much for a guy like him to fall down a board. And he's looking like a fringe first round pick as it is today, and he won't be at the U18s. So God only knows where we'll be in 2 months. But I don't know, like, not a whole lot this year would really surprise me, but those are famous last words. Who knows? Like, who goes in that 3, 4, 5 range is going to be very interesting. I mean, honestly, who goes at 1, 2, 3? Like, in that central scouting video, one of the guys was like, I've got Reed at 1. Like, Reed's the best player in this class. And I don't know about that, but, like, I don't think anything is set in stone right now. I go back to the fact that you've got, I think you go back to the fact that you've got 2 wingers at the top for most people. That has not happened in almost 2 decades. You are looking at 2 wingers who, one is a very complete but not necessarily elite at something player, and the other is someone who's elite at something but a lot of question marks. Like, I don't think it's going to take too much for an NHL team to get a little spooked and go somewhere else. I just don't. I think that possibility has to be entertained still. It's possible. Likely, I don't know, but I think it's possible. A short list of overagers this year. I mean, Galvis is the obvious one, but like I'm a stan for Ivan Fomin at this point. He's hilarious. Rael Mullen, Andrew O'Neill, Rocky Langvar, who was on Central Scouting's list. I still like Sundqvist. I still like Katavisto. Who are the re-entries? There's another one recently. I can't remember. There's a few. I was watching some the other day. Oh my god, why can't I think? I'm struggling over here. Kostov. Alex Kostov is one. I like the defenseman in Sochi too, the Russian guy, Sapozhnikov. I think Sapozhnikov is a really interesting one. I don't have him ranked, but he might be a watch list level guy for me. Late round guy, maybe. He's very big. He's interesting. I don't know. The other 3 games in North Bay Brantford was close and entertaining. Wasn't the goal differential like 17-6 or something like that? Last night was good. I saw last night, and that was a good one. But I think we're like 9 sweeps in the second round or something like that. Like, that's crazy to me. Yeah, 8-1, 4-1, and then 3-2, 5-3 when they were in North Bay. You know, I don't know. I mean, sure. I still don't believe, watching the Brantford Bulldogs, that Malhotra is the driving force behind their offense when he's on the ice. He's a good supportive part of it. but I don't know. But yeah, like we're on track. Like Kitchener-Sioux is up 3-0. Windsor-Flint 3-0. I believe in the WHL. I mean, last night Kelowna by the skin of their teeth avoided a sweep to Everett. They were down 3 goals in the third period and won in overtime 4-3. It was a great game though. I watched bits and pieces of it and it was awesome. Kelowna won't go away quietly, that's for sure. But we're looking at, Danford drives the offense. Exactly. Danford's going to be Miro Heiskanen, man. I don't know what we're talking about here. My stupid flash score, man. Yeah, like in Quebec, you had 3 sweeps, and Blainville, Newfoundland is 2-2. And in the West, you had 2 sweeps, almost a third last night. And I think Everett outshot Kelowna like 40-23. And then you have a Penticton Prince George series that's 2-2. We might get Carson Carrolls at the U18s, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. But I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but the fact that we're looking at maybe 9 sweeps, almost 10, and before 2 days ago it was at 11, on track for 11 in the second round of the playoffs in 3 different leagues. I don't know. That sketches me out. And yeah. And yes, I know I'm a hater because I say I'm not a hater, but like I'm just pointing it out. That's all. I'm just pointing it out that these leagues are not super competitive anymore, right? I just don't. The haves and have-nots is exceptionally wide now, and it's the same in college hockey, but it also seems to be the same just in the world in general these days. Yeah. Wu is another re-entry that I maybe could see getting drafted. I wouldn't do it. I think he's just too. I find him quite reckless with the puck and very risky and he's very fun to watch, very skilled. He goes and he can dance with the puck really, really well, but I just don't know if he projects. Veilleux is decent. I like Veilleux. I don't have him ranked, but I did last year. He's pretty good. Van Hanen, yeah. I mean, I just don't know if any of those guys translate to the NHL. Like they're small and compact, and while they're skilled, I would love to see it work. Like I'd invite those guys to camp, see what they can do, and go from there. Olimata is one of the most productive defensemen post-deadline. That's true. Someone's got to do it. Who's one prospect that absolutely nobody's talking about outside the first round that you think is going to be a surefire NHLer? Oof. Well, I mean, my confidence level on anyone being a surefire NHLer is questionable. But, like, I think Adam Golier has a very, very good chance of being something. Like, he's just too good with his instincts defensively. His skating ability is just too good. Right-hand shot. He started to gain a bit of an offensive gear as the year went on. So I look at Golier and see a guy that probably will be going in the second round now. Where was he on Central Scouting's list? He was 14th in Europe. So yeah, that pencils him as a second round pick. That's probably one. If you want like a deep, deep, deep cut, I mean, I feel like people have forgotten about Adam Valentini. I think that guy's going to find his way into, like, that guy at the very least can be a rambunctious little jerk that plays on my fourth line, that annoys people, has a lot of skill, gets around the ice, and is a lot more physical than you would think. Like that if you get that in like the third or fourth or fifth round, then yeah. I have similar thoughts about a Kasper Justavara Carlson, who I think is a similar player. A little older and I think a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more more energetic, but those two guys are back to back on my list. So there's that. I know you compared this draft class to 2021, but do you think this top 10 is stronger than the last 2 years? Well, last year, yes. I would say last year, yes, it is. As much as I love, James Haggins was 3 for me last year. Let me look. Like 2023, I mean Schaefer for sure. I mean, I'm trying to be as honest as I can, but Schaefer last year, I would say I liked him more than anybody this season. Misa, I think, is part of the mix at the top for me with Stenberg and McKenna and some of those guys. But like Hagens and Eklund and Potter and Martone and Frondell are also really impressive players. But after that point, it dropped off extremely quickly for me, in my mind. But that top 7, like last year, there were a lot of really good forwards at the top. I think a lot of defensemen at the top this year are looking really good. Smits and Gustafsson and even Reed and Villeneuve, like a lot of those guys are really, really good. But 2026's very, very top group of forwards is very good. But beyond that, yeah, like it's a bit of a softer class, I think, than this year, or at least it dropped off a lot quicker, even though I like a lot of these guys. 2024, I mean, Celebrini, Demidov, I think are also with that Schaefer thing where it's like, yeah, I feel like both of those guys would definitely be ahead of Stenberg and McKenna for me. But like Catton, Lindstrom, Bouillon, Iginla, Juracek, yeah, I think this group is a little bit more projectable and intriguing. That group of defensemen was interesting, but I didn't think there was any surefire bets there, like Juracek and Perek and Levshinov. Like, I had a lot of questions about those guys. But yeah, like it's a weird year where I think this year, like the top group, I think really gives a run for the money for the top group last year. But like the defensemen last year, like this year, it's significantly better. But the forwards this year, I have a lot less confidence. Where are we here? If you don't mind, I'm drafting second overall in a dynasty league this year. McKenna likely off the board. Is Stenberg the guy at 2? League counts hits, blocks, and shots too. Well, if Stenberg's going to a really bad team that's going to be really bad for a long time, he might block more shots. I mean, it'd be tricky. Honestly, I might think about what you could get for a trade. Because in fantasy hockey, I feel like people will pay a lot to have that flashy new top 2 pick. And I think in this year's class, even if you did trade down for more picks, you could probably get more cumulative value than you'll get out of a Stenberg. But fantasy hockey-wise, though, like, I mean, as a defenseman, you might get some good production out of Smits. But, yeah, I probably would go Stenberg or trade it. What NHL team would be a good fit for Preston? It's a really good question because I don't know. Vegas. Yeah, honestly, Vegas maybe. It depends, man. It really depends. Because my whole thing with Preston and the same thing with Villeneuve, like based on the way that they play, everything kind of hinges on how they come off in an interview. I mean, we interviewed Preston and I've seen him talking publicly more often than you can think. And I personally don't feel any sort of, the thing with Preston is like, I'm not in the control seat. So I don't have a say in what happens with him. But my whole thing with him would be like, I want to build rapport with him as a player, as a team that's drafting him, going like, look, 2 things are going to happen here, man. Like, you're going to need to play ball with us sort of developing you and like noticing that there are things in your game that we need to improve. But at the same time, we're going to give you a leash to like be yourself, right? Like my whole thing with any hockey player at 17 years old would be, you know, you're in a new era now that we draft you, but you got to make it count. Right? Like eating right, getting your sleep, doing what your development coaches tell you, doing what the strength and conditioning team tells you to do. If you can't do that, then we're going to have a problem, right? But if you can, and you can, like, if you can walk the walk, because I've seen it, like Mathis Preston, for example, I've seen him walk the walk, and I've also seen him just disappear and make some of the most boneheaded decisions. And you're like, if you can just focus And if you can just bring it more often, then we're going to have no problems, and you're going to have no problems, and you'll be a superstar. But if there's any indication that that's going to be a bit of a struggle, you're going to end up with a Daniel Sprong. Is Daniel Sprong worth where they took him for Pittsburgh and every other team that had him for a year and he scored 60 points for them? I would say yes. I wouldn't complain if I drafted Daniel Sprong at 50 and got a 60-point winger out of him. Sure. But Preston, I think if that's the situation he ends up in, I think it would be wasted potential. And I think that if you're a team that prides yourself on a good development program, you'd probably want to have a Preston in your system. And look, we were all 17 once, unless you're younger than 17, but everybody can be a teenager from time to time. And how you grow and mature, it's not set in stone when you're a child. What often does set that thing in stone is when people don't believe in you. And when people kind of just write you off as like a bad egg or whatever, which for Preston has been kind of a thing that has happened in his career. I think for mixed reasons, both factual and nonsense. But at the end of the day, I love the kid. And I think that a good NHL team with a good development program that will get in his head and say, this is a reset from anything that anybody has ever said about you up until today. We don't care where you go in the draft. We're just happy to have you. And we want you to play ball. We're going to play ball with you and let you do your thing. Then that's the team that's the right fit. I would take it that direction. I just don't know if a lot of NHL teams are going to see it that way. You know, and I feel like at the end of the day, like Lane Hudson was almost a third-round draft pick, right? And Montreal, I'm sure, doesn't regret that. And I'm not saying Hudson was the same as Preston, but like, I'm sure there's a smart team out there that will just go, I mean, how do we not take the chance on this guy? You know? And if you have a good development staff, then you have a good development staff. If Boston drafts the Ruck Twins, including a trade down from pick 6 where they get both using the Leafs pick as a starting point, how many games do they eliminate the Leafs in Game 7 with Minton? All of them. Every single one of them. I wonder if there's a common denominator with Preston's season. That's bait. That's bait. If Alalari is a big under 18s, is his stock rising close to a first rounder? If he didn't have the NCAA commitment, he would have gotten pro games and would have been interesting. I agree. Alalari is a guy in my second round, and I think he's one of these just like interesting, projectable-ish defensemen that are big and skate pretty well and have some defensive tools. Him and like Liskey is another one where it's like, if you take him in the second round, yep, sure enough, fair enough. I could see them being efficient, effective players. I think Ala Lowry is a guy you let season in college for a while and just see where it goes. What kind of players would you ideally have Preston play with to help him reach his potential? Well, I mean, I don't know what more you want out of him as an individual, considering almost half of the goals that Vancouver scores when he's playing for them, he has a goal or an assist. Like, that on its own is pretty good indication that, like, he's doing something right. But, I mean, he's a guy who I think needs a guy. He needs a finisher on the ice with him. He needs a guy who can just bomb shots. A guy who can score with him. And because he's trying to do everything and he can't, unfortunately. Like, not many guys can do everything. Not even Gavin McKenna can do everything, right? Like, not many hockey players can literally do everything at such a high level that, like, you know, they're not Connor McDavid, you know? But, like, Austin Matthews started his career with William Nylander. You know what I mean? Like, William Nylander, I see as, like, the optimistic comp for a Preston based on how he plays, how he presents himself as a person, who he is, the type of player he is. Like, I think there are so many echoes of a similar player, and the exact same stories were told about Nylander when he was 17 as Preston. And so for me, like, with a guy like Preston, I think you need like a Caleb Malhotra with a Preston on his wing would be sick. And you have a, I don't know, in this year's class, like a Adam Novotny on the other wing, like a guy who can finish, that can also get around the ice and forecheck pretty well. Ethan Belchet's with a Preston could be kind of fun. Oscar Hemming. Like those types of guys, I think with a Belchet, with a Preston on the line would be really, 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 really interesting. But like this year, he's playing with like, is it Brett Olson? I think is it Brett Olson? There's, it's like a couple of guys. Like it's Tobias Tomic and like mid-range WHLers. And so like when I look at the numbers, I'll show you. Like, let's take a look here. Like if I look at Preston's data, like his shot selection needs work for sure, but his transition game is, I would argue, like elite. Like not many guys are this good. He is a remarkably active and solid playmaker. His like half of the team's shot attempts when he's on the ice are either done by him or an assist by him. He has excellent forechecking numbers, more physical than you might think. Like he's kind of middle of the road, but the way people talk about him, it's like he's allergic to physical contact. One of the biggest hits I've seen guys throw this year was coming off of him. Like my whole thing is if I'm sitting down with him, I'm going, look, man, we need to work on this. Like your shot selection. You can't be crossing the blue line and popping it on net from the boards. That's a no-go. Just stop doing that and attack the offensive zone more with your speed and your skill, and we're going to have no problem. If you can get down low a little bit more than you do, then great. You know what I mean? And if he doesn't do that, then that's problematic. That's going to hold him back. But like, I would come at it from the angle of like, I believe in you and you can do it. It's possible because the playmaking results and the playmaking numbers, like his slot pass attempts could improve even more from there. His shot assists could improve even more from there. And yeah, like the transition game on him is elite level. Like he is one of the most active transition players on my data set going both directions. Like he's also chipping in defensively too, and a lot of it is over half, almost 60% of his defensive transitions are stick checks. Do you know what I mean? Like he's doing things. He's trying to do things. And you cannot, I think there's a lot of players in this year's draft that get talked about and they get talked about as if they put up numbers like this, and they don't. They just don't. We should be careful overhyping players. Preston is like William Nylander. Well, when I'm correct, when I'm right, I am allowed to do it. Right? Like, if I believe it, I can say it. I'm not sitting here calling Albert Smith's Miro Heiskanen because that's asinine. But like, have you watched Mathis Preston play hockey? Like, you're a Steelheads guy. You live in the GTA, I'm assuming. So like, you've seen a lot of William Nylander. Like the way that people talk about William Nylander, it's identical. It's like word for word identical to like how people talk about Preston. People don't like his personality. People don't like that he's freewheeling. They don't like that he does his own thing kind of, and he's very, like, you watch interviews with him in front of the cameras, just like William Nylander. He's very clearly very relaxed and very fine with it and very open, and you get actual answers out of him. You know what I mean? And there are so many players where you just don't get that. But for some reason, people don't like that, right? People judge guys for that. And, look, I think, and someone asked if he's like a lazy person. He was super competitive and would compete with the Bruck twins and everything. Yeah, you went to school with him. There you go. I'd love for you to expand on this. But like, we interviewed him. He doesn't strike me as a lazy person at all. But here's the thing. I talked to a person who's a WHL scout. They worked for a WHL team when Preston was in the draft. They had a very high draft pick. They had a chance at getting him. They didn't like him, and they didn't draft him because when they interviewed him, they asked him what kind of a player he was, and he said, I'm going to score 50 goals. Like, that was his answer. As a 15-year-old, he's like, I'm going to score 50 goals for your team. If you draft me, I'm going to score. That's my goal. I'm going to score 50 goals. And they were like, that kid's too cocky. We don't like that. If I'm sitting in that room and I have a 15-year-old kid who does that, I'm going, well, you better walk the walk. You better do it. But that's a good I like the energy, man. Like, is that not what you like? It's so funny to me. Like, hockey is a sport where so many people talk about the mental fortitude, the confidence, the willingness to compete, the swagger in the sport. But when someone showcases it and when someone is proud of it and like proud of themselves and like presents themselves in that way and talks about it, it's all of a sudden a problem, right? People are like, well, no, it's the guys who don't talk like that but we believe they're like that. Those are the ones we want. You know, we want the farm boy who's humble and quiet and lifts hay bales for a living, because that's what we want. You know, Carson Carroll's, he's milked cows before. He's a competitor. It's like you can't talk about it. But if you're confident in a sport where like everybody is desperate for these like competitive people, again, the same thing with William Nylander. I live in Toronto, or I live in the GTA. I played on hockey teams where guys for years kept calling William Nylander the biggest loser on the team, the softest player on the team, the guy who should be gone yesterday. And I will never forget a conversation I had with somebody where I was like, the Leafs play a playoff game tonight. Watch every shift William Nylander plays and watch every play he makes. Do me a favor. Don't take a 5-second break to take a swig of beer if he's on the ice, right? Wait until he goes for a shift. And the next day we had a game and he came in and he was like, yeah, you're right. Like that guy is good. And now he has the reputation as the only Leaf that really seemed to care this year consistently and be decent. And he had the reputation as the only Leaf that in the playoffs you go, this guy wants to win. This guy is doing his damnedest to move this team in the right direction. And he's a producer in the playoffs, right? Like, if you complain about William Nylander in 2026, it makes you look foolish, in my opinion. And I've been on that horse forever. So it's like, but it's because there's this like this perception of like, this sport is competitive and you need to be big and physical and strong and yada yada yada, and like, but then sometimes the most competitive guys on the ice are just the guys who are the relaxed one, the guys who are the more nonchalant, but like you go on the ice and you see them and they score 5 points in a game and you're like, well, you know, I don't know how I can still be upset at you, right? And I would agree. I think with Mathis Preston, the nonchalant thing is problematic. And that's the part, though. And again, that the William Nylander, people judged him when he was drafted. I remember this to a T. I remember they said this on the broadcast or very soon after he was drafted, that NHL teams didn't like him because when they interviewed him, he said, I like to have the puck and I like it when my teammates give me the puck. Like, in what universe is that a bad thing? like, what do you expect out of a hockey player who is confident, right? It's like, as long as he can walk the walk, then you're happy. And with Preston, like, yeah, my thing would be like, I always try to think about when I'm excited about a player or something, that I'm sitting next to the player and I'm showing them what I see, right? And I am 100% serious. Like, I am 100% comfortable. If Mathis Preston were sitting right next to me, I'd go, if I'm drafting you, I believe in you. I might be the last person left that believes in you, but I know what you can do. And I think you know what you can do. And it's very obvious, but we're going to have to like work as a team because you could be a superstar. You could make all 31 teams that didn't draft you look unimaginably stupid if you go 50th overall. You can either react to that with an edge and go, I am going to make them regret that forever, or you can get frustrated and annoyed and upset and not do anything. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's going to be up to him, right? Like, I'm going to believe in him. I'll give him the rope. I'm going to believe in him. But at the same time, there's a divergence that could happen here. Because he is kind of nonchalant, and there are frustrating moments in his game. It's the same thing with Villeneuve. I am extremely confident that the ups outweigh the downs with Villeneuve, and I am now, after Monday, like becoming more increasingly aware of just how isolated I am in that belief. Like, I think people see the negative moments in him and just grab onto those and go, he's never going to work. It's never going to work. And I look at that and I go, okay. Again, I remember the identical discussion about Lane Hudson. Cale Makar, I mean, he went fourth, but like, I remember the identical discussion about Lane Hudson. It's not going to work. He's too fancy. His defensive game isn't very good. We're going to pass on him. Some teams passed on Lane Hudson 3 times. 3 times. And it's like, what do you do? Right? I look at Villeneuve and I go, and I had doubts about Hudson, but like, you zoom out and you take everything holistically, right? Like, I don't know. I think Villeneuve is more advanced and more talented at this age than Hudson was. I think he's closer to Cale. Like, I think he's closer to Quinn Hughes, I think, than people are leading on. He's frustrating. He's frustrating for sure. He's frustrating. But so is Preston. But you know who else is frustrating at times? Like, everybody else in this draft class at some point. I could pull every single bad back check or neutral zone stick check that I have seen out of Kellen Malhotra this year, or giving up on physical pressure in his own end. It would make your head spin. Other guys also screw up too, right? Go watch the Daxon Rudolph video that I made. There's lots in there of Rudolph just throwing the puck out in front of his own net, or keeping his feet completely stationary, standing in the face-off circle as the puck enters his own zone, and then just sort of putting, if you want to play that game, we can do that with almost anybody in the draft class, right? The number of times I've seen guys just carve straight through Chase Reed's feet on the rush. The number of times I've seen, like, we could play that game infinitely, but you got to zoom out. And I see so many guys this year, like Tynan Lawrence is another great example. Viggo Bjork, like, yeah, not the best skater that I've ever seen, but he's a lot better than he was. He's still pretty young. And like, he makes do more than enough with what he's got. Like, if you zoom out and you just sort of go, yeah, but how he moves the puck, how he grinds, he goes to the net, he does all of these things that NHL teams look for. But then it's like, but yeah. And then that's it. It's over. Right? So, yeah, I mean, like, it is what it is, but that's just, I don't know. It's pretty wild. In regards to Daxon Rudolph, how high were you on Bouchard in his draft year? Well, I really liked Bouchard in his draft year. I did not do the full, like, tracking database work in 2018 or 17, whatever year that was. I started that in 2019, and then 2020 and beyond was like wide scale, like full draft class data work. And I really liked Bouchard, but Bouchard is not Bouchard is also another player where the situation also does him a lot of favors, and he's come a long way in his career, I would say, but it hasn't been pretty getting here. And he has been playing with like some of the best players in the world for years and years on end. And yeah, I mean, I watch Bouchard, and I know people are comparing Daxon Rudolph to him. I don't believe Rudolph's offensive game translates particularly well, at least not to the extent that Bouchard's, like, his shot from the point was unbelievable at that age, and his ability to rush the puck was unbelievable. That's what I remember. And like, he could go end to end. He was more like Sam Dickinson. Like, Sam Dickinson is kind of more Evan Bouchard like than Daxon Rudolph, personally. What were some players you were really wrong about? I mean, the one I always go to is Caden Gooley and Jake Sanderson. Sanderson I just undervalued. I liked him, but I undervalued him, and so did everybody else. But Sanderson for sure. Gooley for sure. Connor
Cutter Gauthier for sure as well. I mean, I had him in the first round, like late first round, but he's come so far from where he was when he was 17. I'm sure there's many. I'm sure there are people in this chat who have an Excel spreadsheet of all the players that I've been like quote unquote wrong about. If the Leafs stay in the top 5 and retain their pick, do you consider trading it? Like, who's the best defenseman you can get in the trade for the top 5, or maybe even 1 or 2? I mean, I would pick up the phone and see what people are offering me, because I think you can get a good defenseman in that trade, but I think that you could trade down and get a bunch of picks and refill your prospect cupboard and hope to God you spend money effectively in the summer. And again, like, maybe I overweight this, but like, leverage matters. And Toronto is in a bit of a pickle because they're the focus of attention for so many people that everybody knows the situation that they are in all of the time. So like, if I'm an opposing NHL team and I know that the Toronto Maple Leafs are in a bad spot, and they are offering me a 5th overall pick and offering it for a player, I'm kind of going like, why would I help you? Like, why am I like, what's my goal in this, right? You know, like, Vancouver isn't very good. So if Vancouver goes, we'll give you Filip Hronek, does Toronto do that? No, I would not. But like, why would a team offer a lot to a team that is desperate to be better? Like, Toronto has no leverage. In the trade deadline last year, everybody knew Toronto wanted more center help and they wanted a big physical guy. Scott Laughton was the guy, and everybody knew if Toronto, you really wanted him, you're going to pay more than everybody else, because like other teams find 80% of the value in a 4th round pick trading that at the trade deadline than Toronto gets for the guys they traded the deadline. Is that on management not being able to say no? Probably. But I think the league is very well aware that they can pressure the Leafs quite a bit, because everybody knows exactly the situation that they're in, because they are covered in such detail all the time, right? Whether fans of other teams like it or not, they are in the crosshairs all the time, and everybody knows, right? So they don't have any leverage. So that's why I sort of sit there and go, like, if you trade down with picks, you at least then can alleviate that. You at least know, but you know what I mean? Like, you can at least know, like Mitch Marner being traded. It's like they had no cards whatsoever and everybody knew it. So it was like Nick Waugh and a mid-round draft pick, like, or a 2nd round pick or whatever. Like, I mean, obviously it was a pending unrestricted free agent, but like, nobody's going to come and save you. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to save the Toronto Maple Leafs. And especially in that hit piece that came out the other day, they were like, other GMs did not like working with Toronto this year. They thought Toronto was just not serious about anything, so nobody wanted to do anything with them. So like, the league is primed not to help the Toronto Maple Leafs out, right? Like, that's another issue that they're facing, is it seems like the league just doesn't want to deal with that team. So, you know, they'll pick up your scraps, but they're not gonna play ball. Do you have a historical or current comp for Stenberg? I see a lot of Daniel Alfredson. I mean, I've been saying Seth Jarvis quite a bit. I mean, a very, very useful 2-way point per game guy that you want on your team, top 6 winger. You know, McKenna will probably score more points, but Stenberg is a very, very, very complete player, and I think there's a lot to like about him. I need more of my BioSteel out of my Gatorade container. Do you care about early birthdays or late birthdays? Oh, what was the highest rank UK player you ever scouted? Liam Kirk by a country mile. It would be Liam Kirk by a mile. Because they use miles in Britain, get it? Like, by a mile, it would be him. Do you care about early birthdays versus late birthdays? Yes, but only really in the sense of like, I do hold later birthdays to more of a standard, but if I'm comparing multiple players, like if there's one guy I'm interested in, another one I'm interested in, and they're kind of similar, but one is almost a year younger than the other, then that changes the equation quite a bit. Like, I wouldn't have Joe Iginla ranked if he wasn't one of the youngest players in the draft. You know what I mean? But like the way that he plays, his brother got bigger, his dad's pretty big. There's upside there. There's potential. Is it a guarantee? No, but I'm okay with it. I think that I think that statistically, it is a lot of guys that are those late birthdays, those older players that do go really, really high. And a lot of the ones that teams kick themselves for not drafting are often the very young ones. Like I remember that was Nick Robertson. Like Robertson is extremely young for his draft class, and he was like a late second round pick or something, like mid second round pick. And yeah. So it depends. Like I guess the answer is it depends. Who would you draft at Toronto? Kept pick number 5, and with the second round from Lawton, which is Buffalo's, so 50 to 70. Who would you? Oh, okay. I mean, if I'm Toronto at 5th overall, I mean, I'd pick up the phone and see who's available and who wants to trade and see what's out there. Because I think you could do a lot of damage this year if you pick a lot in the first 2 rounds. Like if you can add a bunch of first and second round picks in this year's specific class, I think you could do a lot of damage. Like the difference between that super, super top group and the rest of them, if you can add a lot of the rest of them, I don't think is that big. But if I had to pick at 5, I mean, I still really believe in Tynan Lawrence, man. Like I've got him at 3. Lawrence or Bjork, I think would be the names that I would be really focused on there. Schmitz, maybe. Like if you really wanted a defenseman, I'd go Schmitz, but I feel like Schmitz might be gone by that point. Lawrence will almost certainly not be, and I would think about going Lawrence. I mean, in the second round at 57 to 60, I don't know, Mathis Preston. If you can get Tynan Lawrence and Mathis Preston in the same draft class and you don't have to make a trade, that's awesome. But if you could probably get those guys and also make a trade and add more than that, and that would be pretty good too. But realistically speaking, though, in that range, I mean, on my short list, which I haven't added the 5 pick to because I'm waiting for the lottery to do that, Casey Mutrin. I think Leaf fans would adore Casey Mutrin if he were available. If Tommy Blale is there, I would be definitely down to do that. Adam Gollier, sure. Adam Gollier, I would be very, very interested. Adam Anderson, late second round pick, and they pick early in the 3rd. One of those 2 picks, using it on him would be good. Jack Hextall maybe could be there. Lots of interesting ideas. Oh, Rudolph Burzkown's got quite the bump in the central scouting list. That's interesting. So did Jonas Lagerberg-Hohen. That's really interesting because he hasn't played since the last time the list came out, and he's jumped up in my projected rankings 3 rounds. So fun. Flames giving up 3 of their second rounds, early 3rds with Vegas is worth 3rd. Flames giving up 3 of their seconds or early 3rds with Vegas's pick is worth 6th overall. I don't know what that means. I mean, I am using a statistical model that like university researchers developed about what pick values are worth. And in the context of the NHL draft, like value drops off really fast. So trading like 33, 35, and 66, you can move up quite a bit. And there is a tolerance between trade value of like some teams might offer a lot. Like look at what Arizona offered to get Connor Geekie at 11, right? Like it was like 3 top 40 picks, something like that. It doesn't seem that outlandish to me. Maybe it's a little extreme, but it is based in mathematics. Like those trade offers are based in math. Doubt they'd take him at 5, but I've heard from a friend who's a good source. Might not matter now with the GM change. Oh, so your source is Brad Treliving then? His Brad Treliving's like nephew? I don't know. I'm joking. The Toronto Scouts like Mathis Preston? Well, great. I mean, sure. If that's the case, then yeah, then you definitely trade down and add a bunch of stuff and get him. Suvanto versus Hemming. What's your read? They're similar. I don't think they're that similar. I think Suvanto is a much better puck mover than Hemming is, and Hemming is a much better finisher, and I think a better physical player. Suvanto, I think, has that in him, but he hasn't really shown it a whole lot. I think Hemming is a more complimentary guy that might be in your middle six as a physical finisher type player, and Suvanto is more of a third or fourth line center who moves the puck pretty well and absorbs pressure well and gets to the net well and does a whole lot of stuff just perfectly fine in that kind of way. Compare that to all the OHL draft players saying the model they're going after NHL superstars. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's the thing about Preston that I also really like too, is I remember someone asking him that after a game or something at some point this season. And like, look, I really appreciate, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but like, I feel like you can really tell when someone is actually using their brain to think about something. And I remember him being asked that question. I think it was a post game after they won against Kelowna. And someone was like, what kind of player do you like model your game after? He's like, I don't know. Like, you know, and it's not like you never had thought about it before, but like he kind of wanted to, you could tell he was actually using his brain to think about it. You know, he wasn't just like, I'm Phil Kessel, you know? And I don't remember what he said, but you know, I don't know. You can at least tell that he like paused, thought about it, and gave a good nuanced answer rather than just spouting out whatever. And that's not very common. You don't see that very often, I don't think. You got a lot of canned stuff. You got a lot of insert top scorer in the NHL here. You know what I mean? I forget what he said. It was really off the wall though, and I was like, weird, but I see where you're coming from. Wasn't Bjork the guy who missed multiple breakaways? Yes, he did do that. I guess he sucks. Whoops. He should probably fall to 60th overall. I think Viggo Bjork should be a late second round pick. The Blues' future is sneaky good. It is. I wouldn't say it's sneaky good. It's looking good. This is like a not great year for them, but I think they're on a relatively good path, especially for a team that hasn't like had a first or second overall pick. Snuggerud was indeed really good this year when I saw them. I didn't see a ton of the Blues this year, but he was really good. I don't know about Mayu, Dvorsky, and Carbonneau, but like I really like Snuggerud. I've really liked Broberg with them. Holloway and Neighbors, yeah, all really good. And yeah, they have 3 firsts this year. We'll see what they do with that. Stenberg, too, is floating around there. That's kind of fun. Which right-hand shot defenseman do you feel the most Sharks coated this year? Feels inevitable they're going to be taking one this year? Well, just when you think it's inevitable, that means they're not gonna. Well, San Jose is like a late lottery team, right? Yeah. Oh, no. They're the top 10? Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think people are going to do it, but jumping off the Verhoff wagon, maybe you get him later than you should go. Malte Gustafsson shoots left, so he sucks. He's not a good option. Yeah, I don't know. There's not. I mean, if you really desperately want, actually no. Yeah, Carson Carroll shoots left too. There's not that many that are gonna likely be there. I mean, if you desperately want a right-hand shot defenseman, maybe you trade down and get a Piperinen or a Gollier or something like that. Do you care about game-winning goals? Not really. It's too noisy, right? What if you run into a great goalie for a bunch of games in a row and you don't, or what if the game-winning goal is scored in the first period and they never relinquish the lead? Who cares, right? I don't think it matters. I think that if you know what you're getting with a player, you can very clearly identify like who the players that will give you the best shot at scoring a game-winning goal when you need them to. Because at the end of the day, hockey's a game of probability. There's no certainty at all in this sport. That's kind of the beauty of it. There's no, who knows, a great team might lose a series because the other team's goalie just refused to let you. Right? There was more parts of that Leaf question earlier. What was it? Who would you hire to GM and coach? Mackenzie and Carl, McDougall's, Sonny Meta. I mean, I've heard nothing but really good things about Sonny Meta, and I'd be going to get him. And I know that someone put out something where it's like he's driving up the price so that New Jersey has to pay more. Maybe, but I'd be pushing for him. And I mean, look, if I were hired, I would be on the phone with David Carl. I know he doesn't want to do an NHL gig because from what I've seen, he talks about how he doesn't like how the NHL does the coaching thing, where it's like, if you're not good in 2 years, you're fired. Like, he's a believer in programs and long-term development and long-term whatever. And I'd go, so am I. Here's a 7-year contract, right? That's the plan. You're a good coach. Like, it's undeniable that David Carl is a very talented coach. So I would be giving him the rope to say, look, man, like, yeah, let's do this. Let's give you, unless there's, and because I trust a guy like David Carl to not create a disaster in the dressing room. That's when you kind of lose track of a coach, is when like the dressing room gets a little bit out of control and he can't do it. But I have faith that he's going to be the one who keeps the ship oriented in the right direction, no matter who's on the team. So yeah, I'd give him the confidence and the leeway to be like, yeah, you want an NHL gig. We want you here and we want you to stick here. And we think you're good enough where we can give you that opportunity. I can't say that about a whole lot of coaches that I've seen over the years, but he's one of them. So yeah, I'd be getting on the phone with him and seeing what they could do. I don't know. The McDougalls, I'm not so sure. Like I think it's off. Like, again, like in the CHL, there are haves and have-nots, and Moncton has benefited greatly. They're smart people. I would bring them on board for something, coach, whatever. But I don't have the same level of confidence as I do with like Meta or Carl. What about Gleb Pugachov stands out to you? The fact that he crushes you. The fact that he absolutely runs you down and crushes you and actually has some skill in his game. But, I mean, last year I had Andrei Zavadsky ranked. I really like Andrei Zavadsky as a Russian sort of defenseman that might be a good KHL defenseman one day. He hit him so hard his helmet flew off and he ended up horizontal in midair. And that was awesome. I'm sure it wasn't awesome for Zavadsky, but like, Pugachov can line you up and destroy you. And I love it. He is a lot of fun. Like, if you want that, like, complimentary power forward that I think I like Mutrin more, but Pugachov is a good one too. He is nuts. And I think if you just let him go, he'll make it worth it. What I would do to retool the Leafs: Liljegren, Blankenburg, Yamamoto, and Jankowski in UFA. I agree there, especially on the first three. Yeah, and then you keep Michelli and Robertson and give them ice time. Yeah, I think that's a good step in the right direction. There were a couple of other names that I came up with because I did this before. Like, if I were GM, and like those guys definitely were on the list: Liljegren, Blankenburg, Yamamoto. I mean, you hope Tanev comes back and is something. Oh, it's after 4:00. Okay. But there were some other UFAs out there that I think you could do well per pound, like per dollar. Did I save it? I probably should have saved it. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah, you keep Troy Stetcher. That's another one I would keep. Oh, Michael Carcone was on this list, but he got extended in the time since. Honestly, Brent Burns. I honestly, I would just lean into the offense, be that fast, exciting team that the Leafs used to be, and just go for it and bring in Brent Burns. He's your 42-year-old vibes guy, league minimum or $1 million, whatever. He plays for the best team in the league right now, and that's fun. Yeah, it's tough though. Blankenberg, yeah, that's on the list. Jankowski's pretty good too. And also get Morgan Riley a therapist or something. I don't know. AJ may break his computer if Toronto trades 5th overall. I don't think so. I think AJ would be all for it. I think he would. I'm not going to speak for him, but I think he would not be against it. And if Leaf fans don't like it, then, they've been wrong about all kinds of things over the last few years. So maybe they should, for one time ever in their lives, shut up. Because maybe they don't, really know, right? Like, this is the time of year where everybody knows better than everybody when it comes to the draft, right? But I've been in the trenches since September, my friend. And if I were general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, I would not be afraid of those fans if I'm trading 5th overall and end up with 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick and end up scattershotting a whole bunch of really good players in this class, because I don't think the difference is that big. I really like the top group this year, but some really, 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 really good players are worth taking a bet on, and they might go 10, 15, 20 picks later than they should. And I think you can take advantage of that and get a whole bunch of those guys. And I think there are just a lot of good players who you may as well take a bet on that are not going to go top 10, Aram Olsen, Nordmark, Klepov, Valentini, Pugachev, Piparinen, Blale, Carroll's even, he's gone, but Victor Plante, Casey Mutrin, I'll take all, if I could have a handful of those guys in my system, and Tynan Lawrence would be hard for me to say no to, but if I could get Lawrence and then a bunch of those guys later, I'm pretty happy, I think. All right, let's get out of here. Offer a late second for Jaden Perron. A Carolina fan wants a second-round pick for their college guy. I would take Perron for sure. I don't know about a second-round draft pick in this year's draft class, but I'd pick up the phone. Thoughts on Gradin's rookie season, scoring 19 points in 36 games? That's what he does, man. Gradin is a scorer. You give him the puck, he can make stuff happen. He'll put points on the board, so good for him. If we get 5th and lose our 2027 first to Boston, pretty sure Philly would get 2028. So would you trade 2 or 3 firsts to trade down in the draft? What? Doesn't, what difference does it make? I'm confused. No matter what, Toronto is screwed. That's the thing. Toronto's boned almost no matter which way you slice it. It's like the plot of Foundation, the book Foundation. It's the plot of Dune. It's like you can see all the pathways forward, and the golden path for Paul Atreides is 61 billion people die. But that's the way you got to go. But 61 billion people die, Or in Foundation, the end of the world is coming, but it'll only be awful for 1,000 years instead of 10,000 years. Right? It's like, you're in a tough spot. So it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I don't know, man. I don't know. The Leafs are going to have a tough couple of years in the draft in the first round because they traded those picks. I think in this draft class, you could move down and do a lot of damage, and then you worry about the rest of the picture later. Leaf fans can say what they want. They can think what they want. They can say what they want. They can do whatever they want. They can believe whatever they want to believe about it. They could think that Albert Smits is the next, Miro Heiskanen for all we know. But the Leafs do have their 2026. Like, if they trade the pick, they don't lose the, like, I don't understand. Like, the point I'm trying to make is, like, I don't care. Like, I'm looking at the marketplace as it is today, right? The guys that I would take at 5th overall this year that are on my board that high are not going to go that high, right? Like, the math is not complicated. I have players in my top 5 that will probably go between 10 and 15. So if I can trade down from that top 5 into, let's say, 9th spot and add 2 second-round picks or another late first and a mid-second, and I can add, say, I don't know, Xavier Villeneuve at like 26 and I don't know, at this rate, Mathis Preston at like 43, and I get Viggo Bjork at 9 or 10, like, I think Leaf fans eventually would get over it. Like, it would certainly make losing their first-round picks the next 2 years a lot more tolerable if those things worked out. Because also, like, people are clowning on Keaton Verhoff and stuff. There's a chance he doesn't work out. The last thing you want is to draft someone at 5th overall, overrate them, and anything, and it just goes wrong. Anything outside for trade down. I mean, honestly, this draft, like, I love McKenna. I don't think it's a guarantee he's a superstar. I love Ivar Stenberg. I don't think it's a guarantee we look back on him and go, boy, he went 2nd overall, and boy, that team is lucky. Like, he's a good player. There's a lot of good players. But how many times do we look at the draft class in retrospect and go, imagine if you had 1st overall in 2020 and you were like, I'm going to trade back and skip Lafreniere and I want Tim Stützle, right? Then people would call you insane. You'd be like, you're insane. But in retrospect, it would be like, boy, what a move that was, right? Like, if you have conviction and you've done the homework, don't do things just because you think the fan base will and will not like it, right? There's no guarantees in any of this. And it always ends up, like, it always cracks me up, and then we got to go, but it always cracks me up when I see people commenting like, these are the worst rankings I've ever seen, or I can't believe, like, there's no way that this is how the mock draft is actually going to work out or whatever. And it's like, look at the NHL draft in general. Look back on the NHL draft classes from the last 10 years. If I said that Adam Fantilli was going to become a 30-goal scorer faster than Connor Bedard did, people would think I'm the stupidest person to ever exist. But it would be true. Or Lafreniere is not going to work with the Rangers. He's going to be a 3rd-line winger for them. You look ridiculous, but you would look really smart in retrospect. You know, people had doubts about Shane Wright. Everybody thought that was insane. People thought that was psychotic. Even myself included. I thought it was nuts, but I also wasn't a huge fan of him, and I didn't lean into it. I didn't lean into it enough. I never was super excited watching him play. I looked at his data package the other day, actually, and I was like, man, I should have at least had Cooley ahead of him. Beyond that, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I would have realistically had him anywhere beyond 2, but still, right? Like, it's like you think you know everything if you don't do any of the work. And in retrospect, everybody on some level ends up looking foolish for something, right? Like, it's the way she goes. And I don't know. I'm used to it. Like, at this point, I don't really care. Like, that's why my rankings look the way they do. I don't care what anybody says. People can say what they want. People can think what they want. I've gotten messages from people over the last few days. I know what people think. I don't care. I'm going to keep plugging away. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Oh, boo-hoo. Right? I don't know. But I've watched a lot of these guys, and I would put them on my team. And I don't think it's a certainty that just because you have the 5th overall pick means you're going to nail it. You know, I think it's very possible that when you draft a guy at 5, you might get a good player, but you look at who went at 8 or 9 or 10, and you go, whoops. We got a good one, but I don't know. That guy's pretty good. Like it's a weird draft class where I don't know. I have a fundamental thesis that goes in the face of a lot of conventional wisdom with regards to Canadian hockey and where it's headed, and the US and where it's headed, and how good the Europeans are this year, in my opinion. And it just puts me on an island. And maybe I'm wrong, but like, I don't know. I just keep thinking back to the times where I've seen players and gone, well, I don't know about that. And fought through all of the nonsense from people being like, well, not nonsense, I should say that, but like the pushback from people. The number of times I was told Sam Dickinson's actually an excellent defensive player. Now he's in the NHL. Probably shouldn't be, but he kind of has to be. But you watch him play in the NHL and you're like, he's not ready. Zane Parekh, not ready for the NHL. But like, if you point that out, if you go, I don't know, you know, Aitchison, another example. You know, I look and I go, I think I'd much rather have this Victor Eklund guy or James Hagens, like, yada, 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 you know? And now you see, like, look at James Hagens on a forecheck. I didn't know he could do that. It's like, well, Jesus Christ. You know? Oh, my God. Anyway. All right. Last show, the last one here, and then we're into the show. Worth a chance drafting 5th. How many trade downs outside the top 5? Look, I'm just telling you that based on the landscape of this draft class and how things shake out, like if Carson Carrolls goes 2 and Daxon Rudolph goes 4 and blah, 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 there are going to be a lot of good players still available. I want to get a lot of them. Just because people have done it and it hasn't worked, or it never happens in the first place. Like, it rarely ever happens. That doesn't mean it's not a good strategy, right? If Ivar Stenberg or Gavin McKenna are there at 5, then I'm not trading that pick, right? Demidov at 5, I would never in a quadrillion years have traded that draft pick. If I was working for the Habs that year, I'd be bouncing off the roof of the Sphere, and trust me, it was really high off the ground. I'd be bouncing off the ceiling if I was working for the Habs at that draft table, and Demidov was there. I'm not trading that pick. I'm saying, in the current environment, looking around at what is likely to happen as of today and what people have been saying about certain players and what the market dynamics are like, I see a good potential opportunity. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but it's a potential opportunity, right? You have to do your homework and understand the scenario. It's not we're not playing NHL 26 here. It's not, well, the 5th overall pick is worth da 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 da, right? It's not a 1-to-1. It's not the same story every year. And I think in this year's draft class, I see players that people are seeing more as a back half of the top 10 into the second set of 10 guys that I go, I would draft those guys at 5, but if I could get them at 10 and add more stuff, I don't know why you wouldn't want to add more stuff, right? Yeah, or you could just sort by CHL scoring and call it a day. Sure, you could do that too. That works too. But anyway, I mean, look, I'm not saying I would guarantee to do it. If nobody's offering me anything I want, and I can't really simulate out like, okay, well, if I do these picks and I get these, then these guys, I don't know if it would really add up all that much. And, you know, but if I was a general manager and I did have the 5th overall pick and I had a crystal ball and I could look into the future and I go, I have Albert Schmitz. If I keep this pick, I know for a fact, and that's fine. I like him. Good player. But if I look into a crystal ball and say, this team, if I picked up the phone, they would have offered me, I don't know, like, let's see, what is a possible trade? I'm going to just go to my simulator here and what someone would offer. And I won't go for the most popular one. I'll try to think of one that like actually entices me, right? Once it loads. Yeah, like you should be open to trading anything you want at any point if you think it makes sense. And you got to have the conviction to do it if you're going to do it. You can't be thinking about the fans. The Toronto Maple Leafs fans over the last 5 years, I would argue, have done nothing but bad things to the environment. Like, we need Nick Foligno. We need Brian Boyle. We need Scott Laughton. If we don't get Scott Laughton, I'm going to jump off a house. You know, we need William Nylander needs to be traded. Mitch Marner's the worst player on the team. You know, like these gremlin people, like you can't listen to them. They don't know anything. All right, we'll skip the draft lottery. We'll just assume Toronto sticks at 5. Oh, that's not right. All right, I'll have to fix that. Apparently, if you don't run the lottery, the conditions don't work. All right. Well, Toronto won the lottery, but whatever. I'll do it again. Toronto lost the lottery. I just want this to be over. Okay, so 5th overall. So Seattle is willing to offer 6, 100, and 166 to move down a spot. I'm not doing that. Yeah, I mean, like, there's not a whole lot that's like jumping out at you. Let's see. If I go to Calgary, Calgary has a lot of picks. Maybe they'd be willing to play ball here. Yeah, like Calgary, I'm just going to say that this is not what I would do. But Calgary would give you a late first and 2 very early second round picks for that pick. Let's just see who's available. Right off the top, is Villeneuve gone? That's a shame. 3 picks too late. Well, let's say Preston. I don't know. Anyway, you get the point. I'm picking up the phone and seeing what's possible. If nobody is offering anything that makes sense for me, then so be it. You know? But I'm opening the door. Liesel and Minton for 5th overall. Who says no? That's bait. That's AJ bait. Wouldn't other teams see the list and want to keep their scattershot approach since this is a deeper draft? Well, maybe. Maybe they disagree with me. Maybe they have someone at 5 who is for me, like like maybe NHL teams sometimes find players where they're just like, we have to have this guy. I don't know. There's 32 teams, right? Like, they're not all cut from the same cloth. They won't all have the same opinions. Some people might see this draft as very shallow. Other people might disagree. I wouldn't argue that this draft is also particularly deep so much as it's like there's a lot of intriguing possibilities. There's a lot of interesting players. I'm not setting my bar too high for a lot of them, except Mathis Preston maybe. But I'm just sort of taking a peek and seeing what's out there. Yeah, you could take Rogowski at 5th. Anyway, we're going to call it there. Thanks for joining me today. This was a lot of fun. We'll be back Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. In the meantime, we've got scouting reports coming out. We got one tomorrow. The Ruck Twins game tape came out yesterday. The under 18 thing is under preparations for subscribers. You can check that out whenever it's out and whenever the thing is, the rosters are out. More reports next week. If you want access to all of them, you go to scouching.ca, get yourself a subscription where you will get access to all kinds of fun tools, data analysis tools, and all kinds of good stuff. And our Discord server, which is a lot of fun. We do office hours in there where we watch games together and hang out and watch these guys and prove to you that I actually watch the games. and that these takes actually come from somewhere. Yes, Viggo Bjork game tape is on the way too. Yes, AJ's working on that. So you'll see that as soon as it's done if you're a subscriber, and if not, you'll see it whenever it comes out in like 1992. Never mind. Anyway, thanks for joining me. We'll see you Monday night, 8 p.m. And be well and nice and all that stuff. All right, see you around.